Hey guys, it's HulloAlice, and I am back to show you the October Paletteful Packs Premiere Pack. So this is the Inktober Challenge box. I am super excited to dive into it. I have it right here. I'm going to go ahead and jump onto my desk, and let's go see what is in this special October-y Inktober box. Okay, so here is the October Paletteful Packs Premiere Pack. Let's go ahead and just open this up and see what is inside. So much blue. Oh my gosh, I am so excited. I love this color. Let's see what's in here. So the first thing that I see are these inks. So these are the Amsterdam acrylic inks. There are two colors in my box. There's grayish blue and phthalo blue. So we've got a blue theme going on here. Super exciting about that. So these are made in Denmark. And they are fluid acrylic ink. So Amsterdam makes other things as well. They also make acrylic paint and they make acrylic markers. So they've used the same color system for these as well. So if you already use their products, that is good to know. And these can be used for like brushwork, airbrush, ink, like pen and ink work as well. So you can see on the side they kind of have all these little icons that tell you everything that you can use it for. It is super pigmented and waterproof when dry. I love using acrylic inks. I used to use acrylic inks all the time. I cannot wait to use these. Alright, so the next thing I'm going for are these because I recognize them. These are Tombow brush markers, which I love the Tombow brush markers. These Tombow markers are dual tipped, so one end is a brush, as you can see, and then the other end is a bullet nib. You get two of them in the box. The colors that I got are 515 and 451, which are again two blue colors going with the blue theme for the Inktober Challenge box. And these are going to be water-based markers, which means you can use a wet brush or spray water on them to create some really cool watercolor effects. They're also really fast drying, and because they are water-based, they're non-toxic, which is cool. I use these for my bullet journal a lot, and I've recently been experimenting with how they work for art, so I am super excited to use these and give them a try and use them along with the ink. So the next thing that I'm going to go for is this guy because it's in a pack right here. And this is the Zebra Zensations brush pen. And it says it's a fine tip, which is awesome. I've actually been looking for a fine tipped brush pen. It's in black. And it says that it's water resistant permanent pigment ink that's acid free and archival quality, which is pretty great. It's also a super deep, rich black. So I can't wait to get started with this guy. This looks great. Alright, so let's dive on in and grab the next thing, which is this guy. This is another Amsterdam product, and this is an acrylic marker in 105 or titanium white. It is permanent, has max light fastness, it's water-based, and it is also opaque. It has a 2mm round nib. So definitely a thicker nib, not a small nibbed product by any means, but this should be super helpful for adding in white on top of the ink. So I'm excited to use it for that. Alright, so there's a couple more things in here. The next thing that I am grabbing out is a brush. So this is a Davinci Universal Synthetics brush. It is a size 3, has a nice wooden handle. It is actually made from sustainable wood, which is amazing. And it can be used for all ink and paint media. So this is going to be perfect for using with the acrylic inks that they sent me. Alright, there's one last thing below all of these fun blue little squiggles, and that is some mixed media paper. Toned blue, of course. So this is the Strathmore mixed media paper in toned blue. So it is a blue-gray color. This is their 400 series, which is actually their best series. So this is acid free and it's for both wet and dry media, and it's toned specifically for using light and dark media on here. So my white acrylic marker is going to show up on here, and so are my colors. And it's also 100% recycled and made in the USA, which is really cool. And it's 184 pounds. So that's about a medium surface. So this is great that they sent this entire pad. It has 15 sheets, 6 by 8. So I am excited to go ahead and make some art on this. So yeah. So one other thing that this pack has is on the back of the little note card that you get that has all of the supplies listed. It has the Inktober rules: make a drawing in ink, post it, hashtag it, and repeat. And it also has the official 2018 Inktober prompt list. That is everything in the box. I'm going to go ahead and get some sketches sorted out, and let's make some Inktober art. I'm excited. So the first thing that I did after I came up with my idea was sketch it onto the piece of paper. And after I had sketched it, I decided to go through and do some outlines with the brush pen. The brush pen was really, really nice to work with, and I really enjoyed it. The tip was really, really small and fine, and it just made it really easy to use. And I felt like I had a lot of control over it. It also turned out to be really, really waterproof. The first thing that I did before I started using any of these supplies or even sketching my drawing was I used the first piece of paper to test out all of the supplies by swatching them, as well as testing out if they were waterproof, and just trying to figure out good techniques to use them with. And I really recommend that to anyone whenever they get their first new supplies. I decided to draw this girl kind of with her hands in front of her in a very proper posture, based on a reference that I found on Pinterest. And because everything was blue, I decided to put some blue flowers in the background. And because I'm from the state of Colorado, I decided to use the columbine flower because that is it's our state flower, and it is a beautiful blue flower. So I put some columbines in the background. And yeah, I also looked at the Inktober prompt for this day that I was working on this, was exhausted. And I do feel like she looks a little bit tired, especially by the end of this. The technique that I used to shade her skin was I used the Tombow markers to layer up the tones, and then I used water and the brush to soften the shading even more. It worked pretty well, and I was really impressed with how the paper took the wet media. It did get very dark when you put the water on, which was very interesting, but it dried perfectly fine, and I think that was just a normal reaction. It didn't buckle or warp at all. It stayed perfectly flat, which was really cool. I used the inks to fill in the centers of the columbines, as well as her kind of corseted top and her hair. The inks were very fun to work with. They were very opaque. The light blue ink was the more opaque ink, and the dark blue was more translucent, but it could be built up to being more opaque, which was very fun to work with because you could build up layers of shading, and I could add the lights back on top of the darks. So I really enjoyed that aspect of them, and I felt like it was a very freeing method to work with. I also felt like the inks and the markers worked really, really well together, and they also performed really amazingly on the paper. So I feel like overall this was very well thought out in terms of how the materials and supplies would interact with each other. I then used the darker blue to go in and add shading onto the back parts of the columbine flower, because columbines kind of have like 2 layers of petals. And I put the base layer of this down with the darker blue marker, which was a little bit more of a teal blue than I originally thought that it was going to be, but I actually ended up really liking that dimension of having a teal blue and then having the more purpley blue of the 2 ink colors. I thought it added a little bit of extra depth to a monochromatic image, which was really fun. Then I used some wet on wet techniques to create the center of the columbine flowers, where there is a slight fade and kind of like a darker kind of color in the center. So I just mixed the inks and then added the dark in while it was still wet, and then I dropped the light on top of that as well. So I got this really cool blended effect. And then I just added in more shading to the lace, and I decided that I wanted to completely flatten the front of her corset. So I just kept building up layers of the blue on the corset until it was as uniform of a color as I could get, and then I added texture to that later on. For her hair, I mostly used the inks as well. I just used the lighter ink to go through and add highlights, and I also used that ink for the lips. And then I wanted to add a little bit more of some shadows on her skin, so I used some watered down versions of the darker blue ink for that as well. So I just kind of kept building up different layers and adding different textures and different parts to the image until I was happy with how it looked. And once I was pretty satisfied with the image in the center, I went in with the white. And the first thing that I did was basically outline everything. And then I drew these petals. So basically I wanted it to be like there were more columbines in the background, but in white, kind of like a white silhouette. So I drew those in and filled them in. This is an acrylic paint marker, which means it has paint inside. So I've never used one of these before, and it was a little bit tricky to get used to at first, but once I got the hang of it, it worked really, really well. And I really liked how bright white I was able to get. I was also able to kind of push it down into a palette and use parts of it on a little brush to add in the white highlights. And I used the brush again for that. The number 3 brush was able to get really, really fine, and I was able to do really small details with that, which was really, really great. So I felt like the paint marker was really versatile because of that. I did have to go through and layer it up a little bit, which created quite a cool texture as well. This piece in real life feels a little bit more like a physical painting, which is very cool. This is going in with the white again, as I mentioned to you guys, the little technique that I used with the paintbrush. And then the last thing that I did after this was I went through and re-outlined everything in the black again, just to bring back some of those outlines that I lost. And that's pretty much how I created this piece. I hope that my ideas maybe gave you some, inspiration for how to use your own supplies in your own Paletteful Packs box. And I hope that you liked how the picture turned out. I really liked how it turned out, and it was really fun to work on. I had a great time, so that's really all you can ask, right? Okay, so this is what I created with this month's Paletteful Packs Premiere Pack. So this is the Inktober Challenge box. I hope that you enjoyed this demonstration. If you're interested in Paletteful Packs, don't forget to check out the website. It is linked down below in the description box. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy your Paletteful Packs and enjoy Inktober. Bye guys!